understand there are no such things as aliens. You understand nothing.
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Rosemary Rose, also known as author R.M. Rose, and we're here tonight to have my virtual audiobook launch party. Those of you who probably know me from MBL Entertainment, Saturday Morning Cartoons, been doing that show for 4 years with the wonderful Mark B. Lee and Jerome Connor, and also from Classic Television SmackDown, which is on every other Friday night, but we are on a 2-week hiatus while Mark goes to DragonCon and we all take a much needed break. So I have a great bunch of guests here tonight, and we're just going to get right into it. First off, back in 2018, I published a book called Warped Influences, which is a sci-fi psychological thriller about a girl who disappears one night on her way home from a school dance. After she's found, just everything just goes nuts in her life, and it just turns into a much bigger conspiracy and a whole bunch of issues that happen, including her mother, who is like a very demanding woman, who just doesn't want to have anything to do with the media, and she just takes care of business. But the book went really well. Okay, initially I had a great book launch party way back in 2018. There's my mother-in-law and me at this, but this was at Comics, Cards, and Stuff, which was my dear friend Brian Chandler's store. His store's no longer there, unfortunately, a victim of the pandemic and just life in general. But I'll always be thankful to him for having my party there. That's my dear friend Lizette, and I believe that's her daughter. Everybody came out to see me. It was just such a moving thing. That is Brianna Garrett. This was at the launch party in 2018. Brianna is a big supporter of mine. She's the one who did the painting that you saw at the beginning. She's also done some drawings for me. When I first wrote the book, she sent me just a beautiful letter that I keep up on my wall in my office. And you can't read it, but it's just basically about how much the book meant to her. And that's her mother, Heather, which is a very dear friend of mine. What happened? The book went really well initially. I had a lot of venues and shows, and then, life happens, and all of a sudden you can't have shows anymore because there's a pandemic going on. And meanwhile, I was trying to write the sequel, and my life went crazy too. So I am working on the sequel now. And I hope that everybody who read the book will just wait patiently on me. But without further ado, I've got a great panel of guests that are going to come on tonight to discuss the audiobook launch. And before I do that, though, I want to talk about the audiobook. When I first published the book, everybody was telling me, oh, you need an audiobook. Well, it was so expensive, I couldn't afford it. And then I was down in the dumps about everything, let's say back in 2021. And two people actually came to my rescue, and they didn't even know it. One of them was Brady Dern, who's here tonight. He had sent me an email about the book and how much it meant to him. And that really made me start to rethink things. And the second one was my dear teacher and friend, Amanda Lucas. She was my English teacher from 7th and 8th grade. She called me and we had a long talk about the book. And she's like, you need to have an audiobook done. You need to do it. And she's the one who prompted me to move forward with it. I tried to record it myself. I couldn't. I was a disaster. I was so bad. So I had to hire somebody, and I hired like the best person I could. So I'm going to introduce you to Sky Alley, who's on Fiverr. She's been narrating for a couple of years now. She's got over 300 5-star reviews on Fiverr, 90 return customers. She is an up and coming star in the narration voice acting field. So please, everybody, welcome Sky Alley. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
So, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I wanted to talk to you about your narrating and how you got started in it.
So it was very random. Like it kind of came out of nowhere. It's just as weird to me as it is to anybody else. Um, like in 2020, I fell into just a terrible depression, and it was the darkest point in my life. And I finally like got help and got on medicine, and it was like when the medicine started working, I started being able to like be hopeful for stuff and look forward to things. And one night I was climbing into bed and I was like to my husband, I said, I think I just realized that it's always been a goal of mine to narrate an audiobook. And he was like, okay, random. Um, how do you even do that? And I was like, I don't know, but I think I need to find out. And he was like, sure. So the following week I like researched different microphones and just made a Fiverr account and put up what now I know is like really horrible quality samples of like Stella Luna and Fight Club and stuff. And somehow it kind of took off, and I'm still shocked. I still have no clue how I got here.
Well, for one thing, you've got an amazing voice. Okay, it's just incredible, and you've got a lot of range. And I just when I heard you on Fiverr on your samples, I was just like, this could be the one. So, okay, um, what kind of books do you do? What do you narrate?
So everything I
Well, just
do
tell me, like in general,
I
what do you narrate? Yeah, like what kind of
no,
books do
like
you do?
I have done every kind of genre. I've found that a lot of sci-fi authors find me, which is crazy. I never thought that I liked sci-fi, and now that I've read so many books for narrating, I'm like, "Oh my god, I like sci-fi." I love anything mystery, thriller, anything with a twist that actually like I would want to read otherwise. I do a ton of romance, of course. But I think my favorite is anything with a mystery because then I'm just fully involved in it.
Well, you seem like you were fully involved with my book. I was just so excited when you got excited about the book.
Oh my, how could I not though?
Well, I didn't know. It's a crazy book. I still say to everybody, when I wrote it, I'm like, it's niche. It's not for everybody. But it turned out that it was like more appealing to people than I originally thought it was going to be, for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it niche at all. It's like there's something for everybody. And the overall mystery and then how many mysteries are in there just keeps you like going and going. So no, I wouldn't call it niche at all.
Really, you don't think so?
God, no, there's something for everybody.
So what did you like best about the book? Seriously.
That like I am super good at guessing twists now because I prefer books with a twist in it. And the whole way I was like, I have no clue what this is going to end up being. Like I told you, I have sat with like my husband and grandma and told them all about the book and been like, okay, it's like aliens, cult, kidnapping, is it murder, is it like sex trafficking? I can't tell. Like it could be anything. And each night when I finished recording, I'd go to my husband and I'd be like, it is aliens. And then like the next day I'd be like, it's not, it's a serial killer. And he's like, okay. So I love that it kept me guessing the entire time. And that doesn't happen a lot.
So you had told me like what your process is for when you get a book. So would you tell everybody like when you get a book, how do you go about it? What's your process in doing your narration?
Well, if the author has any like specifics about their character or things that they want me to know, like, you know, Mitchie is tough but not super tough and she's real lovable. She kind of folds. She'll push back a little bit with her mom, but then she'll fold. So I kind of have an idea of what her personality is like, or oh, Gavin's kind of nerdy and soft spoken, things like that. But if an author, doesn't have anything, then I'll just go by whatever the book says. But I don't read ahead. Because I found that if I read ahead, I don't have as much emotion in my voice because I know what's coming. Whereas if I'm reading along and something crazy happens, it sounds more exciting in my voice. Or like a fight scene is crazier because I'm like, and then he hit her and he threw her in the wall, So I as much as I want to, sometimes I do not read ahead. Um, and then I just take direction from the author. And other than that, I go with what the book feels like. And so far, it has worked out quite well.
Yeah, I did, as you know, I did buy another book called The Angel Room, which you just recently did. It just recently came out, and I was just blown away by your narration of it. It's a great book, and I just thought you were incredible in it. And everybody, if you get a chance, I highly recommend The Angel Room. So please get that.
Thank you. I'm so proud of that work too.
Yeah, Lee Call's debut novel is amazing. So definitely get it. I'm gonna bring you back in just a minute, and I'm gonna talk to Kara. So thank you so much. Hold on
thank
just a
you.
minute. Thank you. Next up, I've got Kara Connor, and Kara is a friend of mine. We've actually met through her husband, Jerome, who is on Saturday morning cartoons with us every Saturday at 9 a.m. Me and Mark B. Lee, MBL Entertainment. And also Classic Television Smackdown on Friday nights at 8 every other Friday night. But we became friends. And I'm friends with her and Jerome, and her. She's got a lovely daughter named Gwen. So how are you doing tonight? I can't hear you. Let's see. I think you're on mute.
Oh yeah, I'm on mute. I had the kid behind me. Yeah, we're doing great tonight. Glad to be here. Awesome book.
So thank you so much. Now I know that originally when you had the book, you read it like in a short amount of time, right?
Less than 36 hours.
Yes, that blew me away, and I was so happy. I love when people like rush through my book. It means that I did a good job writing it and pacing it, and I did it over 4 years. So I'm just like, I'm really glad that it ended up, that some people can just get right through it. What was your favorite part of the book, by the way?
I think it was when actually the little parts when Mitchie was in the asylum, mental ward, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, GIHT, yes.
Yeah, because, she's learning to be strong in herself.
Yeah.
And not, she knows that something's going on, but not exactly what, not happy with mom putting her there. And, she learns how to stand up for herself in little increments. And it's a nice way to, I kind of felt for her, but also kind of felt what she was going through, not just empathizing. And I felt I was her to a degree and learning more about myself.
Really? That's interesting. I didn't know that. So
yeah, and I like suspense novels. I like thriller novels, and like your last guest, I'm good at guessing what's going to happen. I'm going to be like, oh yeah, this is what's going to happen. And it's like, no, that didn't happen. Can't put it down. I have to go until I find out what actually happened. Yeah, I think I read it for about 15 hours, and then I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I have to go to sleep. And I don't want to say I skipped work, but it did come to work with me, and I was trying to read in between what I was supposed to be doing. Couldn't put it down.
What you told me a story. Actually, you did something very nice for me, and I wanted you to share it and share that story. So go ahead and share the story about the book.
All right, so I got one of the first copies that came out. Like I said, couldn't put it down. I've only had one other book like that in the last probably 10 years that I really couldn't put down. And that was a book by Christopher Golden. He's a writer pretty local to Eastern Massachusetts, and he has a book fair, little convention at a library in Haverhill almost every October for him and all of the other people who write horror and thriller and suspense. And I didn't want to uh, just drop the book. I'm like, this is too good to not pass on. And since Christopher Golden is a well-renowned author, I said, there's only one other person who I couldn't put down, and that was Chris. I don't read horror. I don't read his type of novel, except I read Chris Golden. So I took your book and I gave it to Chris Golden. And I told him how awesome the book was, that it's very in his line of writing, but similar, just not exactly the same. And he was interested in it. The front cover with the claw over the tennis ball actually intrigued him. He was like, I am going to put this on the top of my Chibi Red pile. And then, of course, COVID hit, so I haven't met up with him to find out about if he's
I
actually
hope
had a
he'd have
chance.
time to read it. That would be so cool.
I hope so. I mean, maybe COVID, he got caught up on his reading. But,
I don't know if you know that I actually met Christopher Golden years and years ago. Did I tell you that?
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
And
I was at he came to a Barnes and Noble when Buffy was really big, Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
Yep.
and I was just such a huge fan, still am. I love that show. And I went and and saw his whole thing and had him sign books, and I don't know where they are now. They're somewhere in this house. But yeah, so when you told me that, I was just like so moved and so touched, and it was somebody I really admire to begin with. So thank you for that. What are you currently reading?
I am actually reading another Chris Golden. I took the dust cover off because I had to go on a trip. It's called the Studio of Screams, and it's a little set of short stories by Chris and a few others. But basically, they have taken the old time movie studio genre, just like Peter Cushing and all those, like back in the 50s, and they've created a fake movie studio company that did these, really cheap horror films, supposedly out of the UK, but everything has been taken offline. There's no more films. There's no books. There's nothing on the internet. It's been scrubbed. And he manages to find the head of, I think it's Brentwood Studios. I'd have to go back in the book and find it. He's living somewhere up in Canada, but he's got 4 of the old films. He says, I'll let you watch them. We'll discuss them. And that's it. You can't take them. You don't get anything. So the book is these 4 films that he's watching. And then
that is so cool.
Yeah.
Text me the name of the book when we're done, because I want to order it.
I'm halfway through the first movie, and it is so creepy. I had to stop reading it because I wasn't in my house. So I'm like, what am I reading it? I'm reading it at night. I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that. I had to wait to come home to finish it.
Okie dokie. I'm going to put you down. We'll bring you back, everybody back up in a minute. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next up, I have my dear friends, Deborah and Michael Grant. Deborah and I worked together for years and years at a law firm, and we have stayed in touch ever since. She was one of my first beta readers for this book. I would send chapters every few months, and I would hand them to her over lunch. And I'd be like, here, read. And she used to work for a hospital in the for the psychological ward. So I got a lot of medical and psychological information from her. She's kind of like my consultant, sort of. And also, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But her husband Michael read my book and he loved it, and that made me so happy. So here's Deborah and Michael Grant. Let me bring them on.
Hello,
Hey,
hello.
good
Hi.
evening, my dear friends. How are you tonight?
We're
just
fine. Enjoying your show.
So we all went to Greece last Sunday night, and I brought my son with me, and we had such a blast, didn't we? It was great.
We
Yeah.
did. It was awesome.
Yeah,
You
we're big
forget how
Olivia
great it is to
fans
see
here.
something like that up on the big screen again.
You know what? It was only supposed to be like on Saturday and like Sunday for like 12:45 and 5 o'clock, and now I've seen it's on. They're running it all weekend, like at every hour on the hour practically.
Really?
Really? Wow.
So apparently it did really well, and of course Paramount's going to take advantage of that. So,
Of course.
but
Well, guess
God bless
who
Olivia,
dragged
man.
me back to the theater to see E.T. this week?
Oh well, I'm not seeing ET again, but by the way, if you guys are Jaws fans, they're going to bring back Jaws over the weekend. Yeah, for
Now, Dad
what's
might
it called?
really
Labor Day
enjoy
weekend.
that.
Labor Day weekend. There's going to be Jaws, so maybe we can meet up again and go.
That would be awesome.
So, okay, Deb, how was it like? Did I drive you absolutely crazy when I kept giving you chapters like every other month
Yes.
about my book?
Absolutely. Well, no, I'll tell you something. The hardest part of that, and you and I talked about this, was remember you would make changes. And I would be reading the latest stuff you'd given me, and I'd think, now wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. And remember, we'd have lunch the next time, and I'd say, well, now why did this happen, or what? And you'd say, oh, well, that chapter back on chapter 3, I changed that. And I'd say, well, I didn't know that. So
here's how my
reading it in little snippets.
But yeah, I know. It's like there were like 5 of you, I think, and I kept adding people as I went along because everybody was like interested in reading the book, and you were like on the first. You and Tammy were like the first ones because Tammy, I would drive nuts. I'd write something during work hours. Shh, don't tell anybody. And I'd hand it to Tammy, and Tammy would be on the phones, and she'd like, oh, thank God, I got something to read.
I know.
I'm bored down there. So she'd grab stuff, and I would throw ideas off her all the time. So imagine working with me, and I would just like I'm like, what if I do this? What if I do that? And she'd be like, yeah, that all sounds good. And then I'd totally change my mind on stuff. But it was just so wonderful having you read stuff as we went along, and you gave me advice.
Really did have a good time. Now.
Some advice I took, and some I didn't, Deb.
Right.
So Michael, you read my book. What did you think of my book?
I loved it. I loved it.
I really appreciate that. I do. I am so glad that you like
Rose,
it. Hey,
I mean, I'm being very honest with you. I think you're very talented.
Thank you.
I think you need to continue.
I thank you.
And
I need the encouragement to continue. Yes, I do. I need all the encouragement.
And I loved how you one of the things I loved the most about your book was how you wouldn't let Mitchie give up. She just kept going. She had to find out what was really happening.
Even when she thought she'd given up, she hadn't given up.
Right.
That's what I loved about her.
That
yeah.
about and
thank you so much.
Yes, there really are aliens.
So thank you. I want to also thank you both for Nick, because Nick helped make this audiobook become a reality. Deb came to me and told me, how much more do you need? Because she knew I was selling off like half my collection. My Star Wars, got rid of a lot of it. The stuff that Brad and I went, and we were there opening night when the Star Wars, the Clone Wars came out. We went to Toys R Us at midnight. We bought like almost every action figure that they had. It was first issue. I sold them all to help make this happen. And part of my Funko Pop collection, which I need to get rid of much more of that. But yeah, I I did all that just to help make this happen, and you found out about it, and you talked to your son. So tell me the story. Tell me the story about Nick, please.
About Nick.
Yeah, tell me a story about Nick.
Nick, he's always had a really big heart, and even all the years he was growing up, he's always had this thing about well, he works for Disney. That tells you a lot right there. He says, Mom, my favorite thing in the world is making somebody's wish come true. And I had gone up there to visit him that weekend. We were sitting, he came in my bedroom one night. He and I were sitting on the bed talking, and of course I started telling him about your book, and he's always, I bought him a copy, if you remember, which you signed, and he's always been really excited about it. And so anyway, I told him, I said, she really wants to do an audiobook too. And of course, his face kind of lit up, and he said, oh, really? He said, that would be great. He said, that's probably just what she needs. And I said, yeah, well, I just had lunch with her like last week. And I said, she's still, X number of dollars away from being able to make that a reality. But, she's working on this and working on that. And she's going to try to get the money together. And he said, he kind of cocked his head and he looked at me. He says, how much money are we talking about here? And so I said, well, I think about blah, blah, money. But I said, I couldn't swear to it, but I think that's about what he says, do something for me, Mom. Call her tonight. And he said, find out a dollar amount and just let me know, because he said, you know how I am about making somebody's wish come true. I said, that's kind of a lot, Nick. He said, no, do it. He said, this would make me so happy. So that's when I called you that night. And you probably thought I was drunk.
I was really,
saying,
I was really shocked
Rose,
and
it's
amazed.
11 o'clock at night, but how much more money do you need for your book? And you probably thought, oh God, Deborah's gone around the bend here tonight.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. It
right.
was
and of course I don't
generous.
say anything else because I don't know if he's going to do it or not. So
well,
anyway,
he did, like right away. Actually.
Right. So the next day I told him, and he says, well, give me a little time. And I'm seeing him over there with his cell phone, and he's doing all this typing and doing all this. And he says, you call Rose. He says, when you see her, you tell her I'm gonna make up the difference and do that. I said, what? He says, yeah. He said, she's gonna be the one I make her wish come true this time. And I said, did. Oh, Nick, she's gonna be. You have no idea how thrilled she's gonna be. And I was. Well, that was one of the most fun things I ever got to do, was tell you that.
it was like one of the happiest moments of my life, and I really appreciate it. And I know Nick couldn't be here tonight because he's got a lot going on, but I don't know if you know that he contacted me earlier today.
Oh, and did he was know?
Yeah, he was so sweet. He said, he was so happy for me, and that he wished he could be there, but he couldn't. It meant a lot to me that he did that. So I wanted to tell you that, you've got an amazing son. He's got an amazing family, and I love you all, and very much, so just always know that
I'll be tickled to death. I think that he was able to have a hand in it. I think that really, and I know it did for me too, just being on the go-between.
Yeah,
it
was special
to
me.
Somebody truly happy very often like that.
Yeah,
you just don't.
I'll be talking to you in a minute, Deb.
Okay.
Thanks.
But you're very
talented. I love you guys. Thanks
you're
again for a moment. Stand by. Okay. So next up, I'm going to introduce Brady Jern, who is a remarkable guy. He's an author in his own right. He just had a short story published in this anthology, Brave New Girls. And so I'd like to welcome Mr. Brady Jern. Hey, Hi. How are you? Thank you so much for coming. It means the world to me that you were able to make the time, because I know you're so busy. You've got so much going on.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So tell me about Brave New Girls. That's what I want to hear about.
Oh, well, I'm actually writing the next story, my next submission right now. It's called The Refuge. And anyhow, Brave New Girls is an anthology series created by two authors who I really like, Paige Daniels and Mary Fan. It is a young adult series, and in this anthology series, it's about teenage heroines, young girls who are interested in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, fields in those areas. And they have an interest and they excel in STEMs. And the heroines are in either a sci-fi, dystopian, or a steampunk setting. And they use their brains and their skill of science and to save the day. I have right here, this is the first one, which I got at Gen Con. And
How was Gen Con? Did you have a good time?
it was awesome. It was not what I expected. I knew there's a lot. I was researching about it, and they're like, "Oh wow, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of games get played here." Well, that's what it is. It's a gaming convention.
Yeah,
There's a
my
lot of
cousin
other
used to
things
go
there.
every year. Yeah, my cousin used to go every year, and I actually have friends. My friend Amanda's husband, Anthony, he does like a gaming show, and he was at Gen Con too.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And if you're
I
into
heard it's
writing,
huge. I heard it's huge.
there's some really good writing seminars, whether you're into gaming or not. And yeah, if you're into writing, they've got good panels there. And there's a lot of stuff to do. A lot of cosplayers. It's a huge cosplaying convention too. So it was a lot of fun. So yeah, Brave New Girls. It's roughly 20-some stories. All the proceeds for this anthology go towards the Society of Women Engineers Scholarship Fund. So all the money, when you buy one of these, it's going to help put a girl through school.
That is
and
incredible.
There's a lot of stories. These are very thick books. And
oh yeah, I was surprised when I got mine. I'm like, wow, this is huge.
And they all have really nice artwork to accompany every story. Every story gets a piece of artwork, and anyone can submit a story. And they're taking submissions right now. You can submit a story at bravenewgirls.weebly, WEEBLY.com. And that's where you can send submissions if you want to write a short story about a girl that's into STEM and has an adventure in outer space and uses her knowledge of mathematics to save the day. You can do that. And you can also buy these books on Amazon, and you can buy go to maryfan.com. She's one of the authors / editors at maryfan.com. And that's where you can find them. But yeah, they're on Amazon. You can get them for your Kindle. I have 2 for my Kindle. And so that's Brave New Girls. And I'm really excited about, I'm going to be writing 2 stories I'm going to be submitting.
Well, that's
awesome. I believe in having a plan B. And so, yeah, that's my gig. I kind of was on a roll with that. I have other things I want to write. But since I already had that fresh in my head, that mindset, the young adult and the STEMs, I'm going full bore for this for the next couple months probably.
So here's the art that they did for your book, for your story,
Yep.
for your story. Tell us a little bit about the microscope.
Microscope was originally called The Afterthought, and it was for an anthology that I'd like to publish someday called What Keeps Me Safe, speculative fiction stories about badass moms and dads. I was inspired by Mary Fan's anthology, Badass Moms. I said, that's great, but I'm going to do some dads too, because I know a lot of badass dads. And so when that came out, it would be a year and a half almost. And I just started brainstorming. What if I was part of the Crazy 8 Press and I was going to write? What if I had one to submit? So I had this one idea. So I have about 13 stories. And my story, the Afterthought, I basically turned that into a Brave New Girl story. But I had to make it less about the mom, more about the teenage girl. And that's what I did. And the editor, Mary Fan, had to help me in the editing process, tweak that. And you're like, listen, you got to focus more on her. And the editing process was a huge learning experience. As much as the tedium of writing is a big thing, but the editing is a whole different beast. It's a whole other ball game. It's very creative. It's very collaborative. And I learned a lot. I took notes. so
And a very famous author helped you with it too, right?
What's that?
A very famous author that in the Star Trek world helped. Did he read it? Did he?
Yeah. I got my story beta read by 2 authors that I'm pretty tight with. Christopher D. Abbott, who writes Sherlock Holmes pastiches, and he's also written some Egyptian fantasy novels. He has beta read a lot for me on 2 other stories, and Michael Jan Friedman gave me a couple reads too, and gave me some input.
I love Michael Jan Freeman.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big deal, getting feedback from him. He's like, I'm willing to help you with this. And take the time, and he did, and I got a lot from both of those guys. So it invaluable, and the story was very personal to me. I threw stuff from my childhood. It deals with more than just a sci-fi element. It's a very simplistic, from the heart story. I always said I'm never going to tell sad stories when I get older. But what am I doing?
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that's a pretty, yeah. You shocked me, and I was moved, and it's a beautiful story. So
Thank
I
you.
hope everybody will go out and get the book, to help girls in STEM, because it's so important. My daughter, you're aware, I think most people on this panel are, that she just graduated from Florida Gulf Coast University as a bioengineer,
That's
and
awesome.
and she, she's right now taking a break before she goes out and gets a job. But it's she really loves science as at a very young age, and I think that girls really do need to be encouraged to go into that field, because it's
Big
just
time.
such a male dominated thing.
Big time, and it's always in high demand, always in high demand. And if you're willing to apply themselves, I mean, the needs for those jobs to be filled are so important, because everything starts from science. And I agree. Yeah, the more girls, women doing those fields, the better.
Yeah, absolutely,
I'm not saying that because you're a girl, because I'm a guy, and I would rather work with a girl than a guy.
Here, Lorraine Anderson, who's a very big she's big supporter of MBL Entertainment. She just came on. Go ahead and take a look at that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I learned a ton. I mean, I learned more from doing the editing, Mary's editing, and than I would have in a semester of college. And there's just a lot of little things you learn. You like spelling okay. It's not okay. It's okay. Something simplistic as that, or just a whole other perspective. Like one of the things I really learned from the writing seminars this summer is at the Shore Leave in Baltimore was know your characters, write a character bio, know what your characters would and would not do. My character of Lizzie, Elizabeth, I had her, sniffing this concoction. She didn't really know what it was. And Mary made a good point. She's going to be a research biologist. She should know scientifically, you don't sniff something you don't know. You waft it and you use your hand. And she pointed out, I'm like, oh my gosh, she shouldn't have had to point that out to me, but she did. And
man, you just took me back to my days in chemistry class. Oh my goodness, yes.
So just little things like that. It's writing is something that you never gonna get it all. You're gonna learn till the day you die, and it's kind of fun, because what I use the stacking analogy. You're stacking, stack like boxes, and the more you write, and the more you learn from your mentors and your peers, the higher your stacks are. And it's just like or another thing I call is your arsenal of tools to use. Those little lessons you learn, you can pull those out of your arsenal and use them again. And so, yeah, I'm very excited to be new at the writing thing, and I'm trying to learn all I can, because
I am so happy for you, and
you.
I'm like looking forward to your journey as well. And I wanted to talk to you about my book briefly, because you read my book, and I was surprised that you read my book and that you actually liked it. And one night you sent me this very long message on Facebook.
Too long.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it was what you did for me, Brady. I was in a very bad place at that time. And when you sent me that and told me everything about how much you loved the book and what it meant to you, and about your favorite character and everything, it really changed my mind, because I was thinking that the book wasn't good anymore. I was thinking that everything was a lie, that I had been fooling myself.
No.
And you came along and you changed my heart and you changed my mind on it. And you gave me my second wind on it. And it meant the world to me. And I wanted to tell you that.
Good. Good. What it is, you make your characters and their backstories. You're taking that from the heart. When you're doing something from the heart, someone's going to connect with it, because someone's been through what you've been through. And when you make that character real, because you're doing it from the heart, someone else is going to see that and say, I get that. And this book was scary. It was scary to me, there's a lot of elements in Warped Influences that you could take as scary. You could take the supposed alien thing. You could take the guy with the beard. You could take a lot of scary stuff, but the real scary thing in it is the stripping away of individuality, which is what a lot of this book's about, was taking Mitchie's individuality away from her. There's nothing more scary to me than taking what makes you tick and say, no, that's wrong. This is how you're going to be from now on. You're not allowed to feel these things that you used to feel for your dad, for the things you really love. You're going to be reprogrammed to be this person for someone else. So that's why it really hit me.
Let me tell you something, Brady. When I was starting to think about doing this audiobook show, and I was thinking about Back to the Book, and I've told people for years that it came from an original idea that I was writing back in way back when I was working at JCPenney back in the early 1990s, called the Alpha Papers. But it actually went beyond that, because I started thinking about it. Back when I was in high school, I wrote an essay called Individuality, America's Nightmare. And it was basically about how people want to conform, how people prefer, conformity, and the loss of individuality. And really, this book takes those elements, because that's always been a big theme for me in my writing, and it means a lot to me. And I really, when I started to think about it, that's where this initial whole book came from, was that essay that I wrote in pen, just for myself years and years ago. I don't even know, maybe a couple friends read it, and I wished I still had it. But that's cool. That's where the core of this came from. So I appreciate your outlook on it, Brady. I'll talk to you in just a minute. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. I had a comment here. Whoops. Where's my comments? I have a comment from Lorraine, and I wanted to address it. Lorraine, thank you so much. Would you tell everybody could you talk about your book, just put on what's the name of your book? Because you just came out with a book too, and I want to promote it. So tell me where we can buy your book and the name of it, and I would love to put it on here. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lorraine. I appreciate that. Okay. I'm going to bring up somebody who's very special and dear to my heart now. When I was a kid, I went to a private school called Redland Christian Academy in Homestead, Florida. And I had a school teacher in 7th and 8th grade. She not only taught English, she taught a couple of other classes too. But one of the things that she did for me when I was very young in the 8th grade is she asked me to be part of her yearbook staff. And that started me. I mean, I was already writing stories and stuff, but that really gave me a lot of encouragement. And I went on to do yearbook 10th, 11th, and 12th grade at high school because of her and her inspiration to me. And I'm going to bring her up here and say hello. So this is my dear friend and my teacher, Miss Amanda Lucas, Mandy Lucas. Hey, how are you doing? Thank you so much.
Great. How are you?
It's so good to see you. I haven't seen you. We've talked, and I haven't.
I know. I don't have I have my hair's changed colors, but
yeah, you know what? You look wonderful. I still think about all the time when I was a kid and we were in class together, and you went to see Terminator. And you were so excited about it, and you came in and told us all the whole story, and I was just mesmerized. I was just I can't wait to see this film, and it was so good. It was so good, and you would always tell these great stories, and I appreciate it. You got a hold of how did you find out about my book, by the way, originally?
I don't remember. I think on Facebook you mentioned something about it, or because I got in touch with you through I started hooking up with all the RCA kids, and of course, and I can picture where you sat. You and Beth behind. Anyway, it was just an awesome time in my life. It really was. And there was
that your first teaching job? I did not know that was your first teaching job.
That was.
I would have never known. You were incredible. You were one of my favorite teachers out there of all time, truly.
Well, I was learning to teach, and I've learned as a teacher, I think I learn more than by teaching than I do to teach. But it was real. And remember, we were talking, I think several years ago, you said something about Shirley Jackson and the lottery.
Yes.
And you
yes.
said, "Oh, who taught that?" And Steve goes, "Oh, that was Miss Luke." And I was like, "Yeah, that was me. I was into that." The
Yes,
Haunting of
you
Hill
know what?
House.
Sure, for whatever reason, I thought that Wendy Waterman had also brought up Haunting of Hill House, and which is my favorite book, by the way. I love
mine too.
The Haunting of Hill
Well,
House.
no, I like
it's
Warp.
just an incredible book. But you know, the thing is, I don't, teachers impact a lifetime sometimes, and you impacted mine for a lifetime. I mean, it's been years since we were in that classroom together, and it's still, there are certain things and certain moments that I remember like it was yesterday.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too.
So about the book, you contacted me, and we ended up having a 2-hour conversation. And I'm sitting in my car in front of my mother's house for 2 hours, and we're talking and talking about the book. And you told me I needed to do an audiobook.
Because I have some friends that they listen to books in the car all the time. And my best friend and roommate, she said, I was telling her about it, and she goes, I don't read anymore. I only do audiobooks. And I said, "Oh, you've got to, I mean, because she was really into reading, but audio." And then you noticed on the Facebook page, I had another student that wanted to get it on audio, which is why I texted you and said, "How can we get it?" Because
right.
Yeah, there's a lot of lazy people out there. I like the paper and I like the ink on the paper, but different people are different ways. So I think the audio.
A lot of people, it's just like what I hear a lot, especially when I go to book shows, and is that they just don't have time to read. They love stories, but they don't have the time. So a lot of people that they'll listen to it on their lunch hour or on their commute in, and I've started doing that myself. I got an Audible account, and I just finished Jeanette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mom Died, which was incredible. It was powerful. It was really good. But I think everybody had been telling me to do it. When you told me to do it, I listened to you. Because
good girl. I taught you well.
I mean, you empowered me to just make it happen, and now it's happened. Yes. So I wanted to thank you for that. What are you currently reading?
I just finished reading the book for the second time.
Well, yeah, I know. I couldn't believe it. You said when you read it, how long did it take you to read it the first time?
I don't remember. It's been a while. And I don't just sit down. I don't have time to just sit down and read. It did take me 5 days this time. I started it on Monday, and I finished.
The book is so big, for you to be able to read it in 5 days is incredible.
Well, no, because I do have a few other things to do. But I'm going to tell you something. This is what I told you. I said I got a big shocker.
Yeah. I
read this book last year. I was reading Kindle books regularly. Christopher Grayson, I loved. I mean, I am a big reader. After reading Warped Influences, I can't read any books. The last book I read before this week was Warped Influences. This week I read Warped Influences. And you know what? It was like reading it the first time. I still was going, "Oh, yeah." Oh, so I tell people, if you get it, it's big enough and it's got enough storylines that you're not going to go, "Oh, yeah, I remember this." You're not. There's too much going on in it.
Did you pick up new stuff? Did you pick up new stuff the second time? Did you pick up new stuff? Did you pick up new stuff the second time?
Yes. It was a whole different. And I filled out I did my little homework. I filled out my little sheet and everything like that. And I have a paper of all the characters and who they are and what they. I got into it.
Well, that's incredible. Thank you so much.
So, but it's incredible. There's no book that I've read to match it. And the whole time I'm sitting there going, this was in Rose's mind. I can't believe. I mean, I was just. And the way you phrase things from an English teacher, oh my goodness, you did me proud. I was like, wow, the way you phrased them. I tell you the biggest thing I loved about it. I love that you had all these cliffhangers. you would get to one storyline and you'd stop at the perfect time and you'd jump over to another one, and without missing a beat, continued. It just flowed. It just flowed. And then about that time you're getting into this one and boom, stop and go to the next one. That's what draws me in.
Well, thank you. I hope I can remake the magic, and I'm trying. I'm trying. But thank you. I'm going to bring everybody back up in just a minute, so
Okay.
hang tight.
Okay.
Okay. I wanted to talk. Lorraine said some information I'd asked her to do. So her latest book is called 2X 4X Murder. Oh, 2 times 4 times Murder. And you can find it on Amazon under the name Lorraine J. Anderson. Middle initial needs to be in there, or else you will find a nature writer. Okay. Thank you so much, Lorraine. I appreciate that. And then she had some more she wanted to say, and I want to throw that up there. The book is only cozy murder mystery I've done, and it's the first book I've done which had no fantasy or sci-fi elements. Thank you, Lorraine. So look up Lorraine J. Anderson, people, and help support us local or us independent authors. It means the world to us in the small press. It really makes a difference. So, okay. I'm just in love, and this is going longer than I thought. I hope everybody can stay on because I want to just keep going. Can everybody just keep going? Is everybody? Yeah, good. Okay, I'm bringing everybody up. Okay, we're bringing up Sky, we're bringing up Kara, we're bringing up Deborah and Michael, we're bringing up Brady, and we're bringing up Mandy Lucas. Thank you all so much. I got everybody's with me. It means the world to me that you all came, by the way. I loved it. I gave you all these potential questions, so we're gonna go around the room here, okay? And instead of why did you like the book, I want to know what the first impressions are of the book. So Sky, you can go ahead and start. First impressions.
First impression, like from the first chapters.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, like as soon as I got to like how at the end of like chapter 1 she's gone and chapter 2 begins with them getting home and she's missing. That was it. I was like, oh, I'm so in. I've got to find out what happened. And I don't know why, but immediately it made me think of Gone Girl. Because they had that fight beforehand and stuff. But yeah,
I actually read Gone Girl, and that book is wild, man. That book is so wild.
Yes.
I did not see the movie, but I really should. But the book just blew me away. It was like I was not expecting that at all. She's great. Kara, first impressions of the book.
I thought it was phenomenal. I loved the mystery aspect, and like one of your other guests said, there seemed to be suspense at the end of every chapter, but then you moved to somewhere else, and I couldn't put it down. It's just spellbinding.
Thank you so much, Mandy. First impressions of the book.
You know what? I'm going to tell you something. I'm not a science fiction like that. I'm not into science
because
fiction.
I didn't have a honey. I read it in tidbits. You should really
go ahead.
So I was like, okay. But you don't have to be a science fiction lover. It was the suspense. So I would, which makes it great. I can say I don't like science fiction. So if you don't like science fiction, please go on and read it. Don't just think it's because it all fits and it makes sense. The thing about science fiction I don't like is because it's just out there.
Yeah.
And most people like that out there. I don't like out there. I like to have it. It's got to make some kind of logic. And you made science fiction make sense.
Thank you so much. Brady, first impressions.
Not what I thought it was going to be. And judging the book by the cover, I thought it was going to be young adult, which I do like. It was way more adult. And first impression, this might sound weird, is John Carpenter. I'm thinking because you have this high school ensemble, I'm thinking Halloween, I'm thinking Christine, I'm thinking Wes Craven. I'm thinking this is like something out of one of those 80s movies I grew up loving. At first, when you're introducing the ensemble, that's what I got out of it.
Oh, that I find that great because I was really kind of hoping and going for that because I'm a huge ensemble fan. I'm a huge high school character-driven person. I like shows based around teenagers, especially when they're done very well. Buffy is one of them. Just blows me away. And I was a huge fan. I don't know if anybody is aware of the show, but it was a Canadian show called Degrassi Junior High, which was out in the 1980s and later on became Degrassi High. I love that show so much. I'm just a crazy freak about it. Since high school, it just the way they wrote the characters and the way it was such an ensemble. It was like a real inspiration for me creating these characters initially. So thank you so much. Deborah, Michael, first impressions of the book.
Well, what really impressed me was your developmental character, Mitchie. You know, the head of the basis of the entire story. Her determination to find out what was really going on, and everything that, and again, your you know, little twist at the very beginning. It was very good and really caught my attention and made me want to keep reading.
No, thank you so much, Deb. First impressions when I was driving you nuts with the book.
I'm going to tell you something I've never told you before. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Go ahead. Roll with it.
Like 15 years before you and I met, I had another coworker that was writing a book, and she was writing a romance novel. I have a deep-seated hatred for romance novels. I mean, I just really do not like romance novels. I'm not going to mention her name in case she's watching. But she decided she wanted me to be the one to read and critique her book. And I spent 13 incredibly miserable months making my way through what she was writing. And oh my God, it was terrible. So anyway, when you approached me with your book, I thought, oh dear God, not again, my coworker. And it's sci-fi, probably, which is another one I'm not real crazy about here. And I thought, oh man. So what I'm saying is, I came to your dinner table fully prepared to hate it. I thought, now I'm going to read it because it's Rose and I don't know how I can get out of this. But I was so pleasantly surprised at at your writing skill, how good you were.
Thank you.
At your storyline. And I don't know if you remember how many lunches there were, where it twisted and turned.
Yeah.
And I'd say, now, Rose, are we going with alien abduction here? Or are we going with and you just smile and lean back in the book and you lean back in the booth and you wouldn't really say too much.
Yeah.
And so I kept going, but
I had to keep the suspense going, and sometimes I didn't know from 1 minute to the next what was going to happen either. I had characters that I originally killed off that I ended up not killing off. I had characters that I ended up killing off that I didn't know who I was going to kill off out of the two, and I ended up killing off one of them. Originally, Tasha York and her little roommate, they were dead, and I ended up changing that around, and I'm glad I did. I think it worked much better for the story the other way around. And it was, the book would surprise me. I'll tell you all something. I only meant for it to be 250 pages long. When I started researching for this show, I've told everybody for years, I started this book in 2015. And I was looking back through my stuff, and that was totally not true. Oh, Brady's back. Brady, welcome back.
Sorry about my crappy internet.
Oh, no, that's okay. You know what? I'm like the storm passed and the internet's working. I'm just so grateful, and I'm so grateful for everybody. So I'm glad you're back. It meant the world to me. I have something I wanted to show y'all. Because I ended up starting, I guess, writing it in 2014, and I did not remember that at all. 2014 was a really new time for me. I was starting a new job. I'd gone through a very horrible job, and that, a lot of you know that story. I was working for a terrible, terrible attorney who treated me like complete garbage and actually threatened my life a couple of times. And I ended up walking out on him one day, and I ended up having PTSD because of him. And he became Dr. Galley in the book. If you remember, he's got a scar. So did he, and he actually looks exactly like him. And because it's basically him. Because the thing about working for the guy I worked for, he could be very charismatic, and he could make you feel like you were on top of the world, that you're like number one, and he would twist it on you just like you wouldn't know when he would twist it, and he would just turn and turn it.
Narcissist.
Yeah. Oh, he was such a
narcissist.
Yeah. And he really did a number on me, and I was only worked for him like 9 or 10 months. It was a brief time, but it was a very intense time. And so when I went back to work, luckily I got a job fairly quickly. I was like, I got scared. I was scared. I would have like panic attacks down in the copy room, no lie. And if anybody brought up sunbiz.org, which is the Florida, it's where you look up the Florida corporations. That's the last fight we had, because I picked this is how stupid this was. There was a pizza company, and there were two of them, and I didn't know there was two. And I filed the lawsuit to the wrong, I had it subpoenaed to the wrong restaurant. Okay. It's both same name, same owner, but the wrong restaurant. And he got so mad at me that he reached over the desk and tried to choke me. And let me tell you, at any other law firm where you do that, where you accidentally you accidentally file, because it happened, you file a lawsuit to a wrong entity, you do an amended complaint. Simple as that. It's like a no-brainer, and it's not anything to yell and scream and threaten somebody's life over. So, but he did. He was very angry, and that was the last day I worked there. But yeah, that's how Dr. Galley came into existence and became one of the bad guys, in the book.
And it was good therapy for you. And it was good therapy for you.
It was wonderful therapy for me. It did a lot for me. Writing his character, it really helped me get over things, because there were nights where I couldn't even sleep because I could hear his voice in my head. And that's the thing. I would hear him in my head constantly when I was working for him, and even afterwards, he would be in my head talking to me. And I needed him out.
Is this guy still working? Does he still have a practice? Or
well, sadly, he did pass away. His practice, he had a history of doing those kind of things to the people who work for him.
Yeah.
And he did it again to another woman, and they contacted me and asked me to come in and do a recorded statement. Okay.
Good.
And here's how the book kind of got started, folks. I went and did this recorded statement. I was talking to them for 40 minutes, and it was an out-of-body experience explaining everything that happened. And when I finished, they looked at me and they were like dumbfounded. And they're like, we're going to tell you this. They're like, the story that you told us is the exact same story that this other woman told us. Wow. And we thank you for your bravery and for coming out here today. I went into my car and I stood in it, and I shook for like maybe 30 minutes in my car afterwards, and I couldn't move and I couldn't drive, and I just stood there and shook and shook and shook. Wow. And I thought, I got to use this. I got to use this, and I did. And I was just like, I started thinking about writing the book probably around that time. And so the thing is that, if that had never happened to me, this book probably would have never happened. So sometimes the horrible things in your life, you can take them and turn them into something wonderful. And I hope I did that with this book. So
awesome.
There's my story about that.
Good.
Well, I had as much hatred towards your character as you had towards that lawyer. So,
Don't we
Yeah,
all?
I know.
Thanks for
he's a
sharing
piece
that,
of work,
Rose. That was very inspiring. That was very inspiring to share that.
Mhm.
What
Thank
you
you
just
so much,
shared.
Brady. I
Yeah.
appreciate
When
that.
you take that personal stuff and turn it around to something positive, that's awesome. And I tell you what, that guy was detailed in your book. You can tell that came from somewhere.
Even the whole thing about being an Eagle Scout, that was also him. I mean, like it's him. Like I would say 90% him.
How about the marshmallows?
The marshmallows? No, that was just my little nod to Eagle Scouts. But I really liked writing the marshmallows. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Favorite character of the book and why? Starting with Sky, go.
I think Tina, because she was like, obviously she was a real person in the book, but the way she kind of crept into the room and out, for a long time I was like, is she even a real person? How does she know as much as she knows? How can she do everything that she does? So I loved her because I felt like she was so interesting.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd love to know more about her. Like, write another one that's like her backstory.
Oh, that's a really cool idea.
Yes.
I'm gonna be honest with you about Tina. I love Tina, and originally she was dead and gone, but she kept creeping back into my heart, and she ended up becoming like almost a major character in this book because she just there was just something about her and her story, and I had talked to my daughter about when I was originally thinking about sequel stuff, and I was thinking about sequel stuff very early on while I was still writing the book, actually. And I'm like, well, what if I brought Tina back? And Rachel's like, don't do that. She's like, you'll cheapen everything if you do that. And she had a very good point. And I said, well, I told her my twist, which I'm not going to share with you guys. And she's like, no, don't. And so, yeah, Rachel, she can be very hard-headed and stubborn sometimes, and she's also sometimes right. But thank you very much for that. That's a surprise, and thank you.
We
Cara,
never
who's
saw
your
the
favorite-
body though.
Huh?
There was no body.
I know because
We-
I intended to bring her back. That's why nobody ever saw her body, but she's not coming back. But she will have her presence will still be around, not as prominent in book 2, but the repercussions of her time with Mitchie are going to be explored even further. That's a definite, and I've actually have plans for that, and there's a new character that I'm going to be introducing, and he is going to have a huge impact on Mitchie's life, and this whole thing with Tina is going to be around it. There's going to be some to do with that, so that's just a little teaser, and I told Rachel about it, and she's like, oh, that's probably going to be the best part. But yeah, I haven't gotten there yet, but it's here, not here. Cara, favorite character and why?
I don't know. I kind of liked hating the doctor, but I would have to probably say Mitchie because
Okay.
I kind of connected with her because as a preteen, I also lost my dad, and
I didn't know that.
we had a lot of stuff in common. I've got siblings, but there are things that were just me and dad.
And you feel this one because
it just came
I
out.
already said.
So it's just I really connected with her, so I got to say that she's my favorite, and that's I think why I got so much out of it as she's learning to be a strong individual and stand up to her mom, and and just become an adult, even though she's still not 18 yet.
Well, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. I wanted to show you guys something, but it's so hard. Let me see if this is the one. Oh yeah, there we go. December 17th, 2015. Want to read a semi-autobiography cleverly disguised as a science fiction psychological novel? WI, which is what the book, I always call the book. Coming at 2016 to a Kindle near you. Okay, yeah, it came a lot later, like 2018. But yeah, so So there's that. I wanted to share that with you guys. It's very true. It's very true. The book is very much, if you all read the book and you read about Mitchie, it's she's a lot me. She's probably like 85% me. A lot of the stuff that she goes through, the flashbacks towards the end, the whole monkey bars thing, really happened to me in kindergarten. That not the whole thing about with Becca, but the whole incident with the monkey bars really happened. And there's just so much of me in that book, and I think that people who read it and know me knew that, and I think that's what really resonated with a lot of my friends who initially read the book. And because it's sort of semi written, it's got a lot of my hometown in it, which my hometown, if y'all read my post the other day, about how it was destroyed by Hurricane Andrew. But I really paid homage to certain places that, and my friends would know it immediately. Like the square was Campbell Square, where we would always, that was the only theater in town, basically. So we always met up there. And little things like that. So the book is really about me a lot, just about me, like my philosophy in life and the way I look at things is very much a part of that book. And I also wanted to say about that, I want to talk about Brenda for a minute before we go on with the characters. I know everybody thinks Brenda's Mitchie's mom, and everybody thinks she's a horrible human being and that she's crazy. And she is, okay? I wrote her as a nutball, but her nutballness, as probably Deborah could subscribe. Hey, Deborah, Deb, hold on a second. I want to put you on for a minute. Deb, you know me from the Viles and Beckman days, okay? When we worked at the law firm together. Were there days when I was like Brenda?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. There was the nutball worked up Brenda can be me. I've really toned it down over the years, but back in those days, I was like a nutball. Okay. I still
can imagine how you probably were in your younger days.
Yeah, you know that scene there's a scene in the book, like really early on when she's at the hospital and she breaks the board.
Yes.
She breaks the she's like filling out the stuff and she breaks it. I broke a board once. I was working at a department store, and I was forced to work on the phones, and it was crazy. It was around Christmas time, and you have all these people, and it was payday, and you would pick up there was no there was like the whole checking thing was new. People still picked up their checks.
Right.
So it was on a Friday. All the people are coming in to get their checks. I've got all these customers coming to pick up the stuff from the back, and I was like, and the phone's ringing off the hook, and I get to that limit, and that day I met my limit, and one of the girls from who worked in the salon said to somebody, I don't think she knows what she's doing. And you know how I am, Deb.
Yeah.
My temper just flew off, and I took one of those freaking boards and I just smacked it and I cracked it right in half.
Wow.
That is a part of Brenda that is me. Okay, I have that. I do my best not to fly off the handle, but I'm not. I still do. There's days people laugh at me. Okay, I'll be at work and I'll get so ticked off, and they'll hear something fly across the room because I'll get mad at a client and I can't tell them. I'm like, hey, yeah, and I'm like, and I take a pin and I fling it across the room, and people will hear the boom, and that, yeah. So Brenda's temper at her worst is me when I'm at my worst. So that's Brenda for you. And I just needed to share that. So, okay, we're going to go to Brady. I was really surprised who your favorite character was. You told me when you wrote me. And who is your favorite character and why?
Well, originally it was Tina, but the one that I think the most was Adian.
Oh, you're cutting out on me, Brady. You want to pop out and pop back in?
Okay.
Pop out and pop back in. The internet's bad. You're frozen on me, Brady.
Freeze frame.
Okay. Amanda, who is your favorite character and why?
Besides Tina, I liked Ashley because she came from behind and I thought was the real true friend. I liked Evelyn because she was no nonsense. I loved it when she
Is
said,
Tina the one that
I'm
got
going to finish
molested?
eating my pizza. She had to wait for me. I had to wait on her for an hour. She was very caring and compassionate, but she was no nonsense. I like that.
Well, thank you. That's really a surprise. I love Ashley. Ashley is that friend I want to have in my life, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, she's like she's the friend I want, and Becca is the friend that you usually get. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Becca is complicated, and I think in a lot of friendships, especially with female friendships, you've got that complication there. You've got it's sort of like the rivalry. You know, they were kind of rivals,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know, not only that, you know, I mean, she goes behind her back. How ironic. She goes behind her back and you know, does what she does, but in the end, when push comes to shove, ultimately Becca comes through, you know.
Yeah.
And I know
That's
a
true.
lot of people hate Becca so much, and even afterwards I have people who say she's not redeemable, but I tried. She's not perfect, okay, and she's never going to be a perfect because she's not a perfect person. But she, you know, I think she did have redeemable qualities ultimately, even though she's also kind of a terrible person as well. Deborah,
Also,
You're. Oh, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say one more thing, but I don't know if we'll have time to do this. Talking about Tina, I loved the poem that Tina wrote for Mitchie. I was
Dark
thinking,
Corners.
here
Yes.
is a work of art inside of a work of art. I mean, it was just, and I'm sure you came up with it, but I just thought that was, and I like the numbered origami too. But go ahead.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you. That poem, I loved writing that poem. And everything in the book that's like a story or a poem I wrote. So it's like a thing within a thing. Like there's that child story, that child book story.
Mm-hmm.
That I also I created that because when when you're doing books and stuff like that, you got to try to be very careful about, same thing when doing a show like this. You got to be careful about using too much music or clips or, I didn't want to be sued. But not only that, I think it was kind of cool that I created places that don't really exist and made them real. And, I did my own writing within writing, which I thought was, it was a challenge and pretty neat. And I've still lost Brady. Deborah, favorite character and why?
I honestly would have to say probably I don't really have a favorite character, but the most interesting character to me was Michi's mother.
Brenda, okay. Yep.
Michi's mother.
Yep.
I guess because lot of reasons, but probably one of the main ones. Yeah, but I loved the dynamic between Michie and Brenda. I liked the dynamic there. In that it mimicked a little bit of some of the things I went through with my mother, in that we were total opposites. Our interests were totally opposite. My mother had a lot of expectations for me that were not my expectations for me. And so I dealt with that for a lot of years. And I just found that particular dynamic between the two of them. I really, you explored that very well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. And Michael, your favorite character and why?
Mitchie. Because
and you kind of explained that. You already got into that. So we'll move on to something else. I've got a little bit of a trivia that I want to kind of share. And maybe you all know it and maybe you don't. Ross Thomas, the good looking guy who's there and he's around. Does
I
anybody
put
know who
asshole.
he is? Do you know who he was named after? He was named after a character from. It's the reverse of a name from a Stephen King book. So,
I'm
any
sorry.
ideas?
Who was it? I didn't hear you.
Ross Thomas.
Ross
Thomas.
Thomas.
Like who is he like kind of based on like the reverse of kind of? Any ideas? It's Tommy Ross from Carrie.
Oh yeah, I
Ross.
just picked up on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I loved Tommy Ross and Carrie. In fact, I love Carrie. Okay, Carrie was a book that
Me too.
I checked out so many times in high school. Somebody should have really kind of started taking notice and say, why do you keep taking out a book about a girl who destroys her whole school and you've like checked it out 20 times? And I read it. I read it 20 times. I love that
They
book.
shouldn't have pissed her off.
Brady's back. He's back, and so I want him to finish his thought on his favorite character.
No problem.
So Brady, thank you for coming back. Who was your favorite character and why?
Adrian, the stepdad.
Aiden.
Yes.
Aiden. Yeah.
Because he was you kind of made him out to be the red herring at first, like the jerk, and I was getting scared of where you were going to go with him, and then he turned out really he's a victim in a lot of ways. He's
I agree.
stuck with this demonstrative woman, and he's trying to cross his T's and dot his I's with her, and also have a relationship with her daughter. And then he's the one that basically calls the mom out, and he's the one that helps liberate the hero of the story. So really, he ends up being kind of one of 2 or 3 Yodas in the story that help her along on her journey.
Mm-hmm.
And to see that change, that's a character arc right there, in my opinion. With that is definitely what I would call a character arc.
Thank you. It was totally unexpected and really surprised me too, as I was writing along, and it just kind of came together that way. And because I really made him out to be just like this complete jerk, like totally aloof, and it just totally turned around. Writing a lot of this book surprised me, the way in the directions that it went with my brain. And like I said, it was supposed to be 250 pages long. It ends up being over 500 pages because my mind would just go places, and I would just be like an out of body experience. I'd be like writing for hours and hours and hours, and I'm like, wow, okay, that's you want to go there? Okay, we'll go there. And that's what would happen with Aiden. It just kind of organically happened, and I was really pleased with how that turned out.
Yeah, that was good.
So
another character twist was the roommate, Tanya York.
Oh, Tasha York.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Tasha was originally like her storyline and her friend's storyline. I was totally going in a totally different direction with that, and Tasha was supposed to be comic relief, and she kind of is in a way. But
she stepped up to the plate. She got it together.
Yep, absolutely. So I got another trivia question for you guys, and that is about Mitchie's last name. So Mitchie's last name is Conrad, as you all know. And there was a movie and a book in the early 1980s. In 1981, it won Best Picture, film directed by Robert Redford. Do you all know what movie that might be?
Ooh.
Yeah, go ahead, Brady. Go ahead.
Ordinary People?
Yes. So Conrad Jarrett is the protagonist in Ordinary People. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It's about a young man who has to live with survivor's guilt when his much more popular brother and beloved son of his mother dies and he lives. And that story and Timothy Hutton's performance really moved me. And when I was creating this book, I deliberately put him on. I deliberately named Mitchie after him, the last name. So Conrad is named after Conrad Jarrett. So
Now I think about it, the mother in Ordinary People is a lot like Mitchie's mom.
in
Totally.
a lot of ways, she is, and
Sally
you know, and
Field.
that wasn't on purpose, but she really was, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So
Mary Tyler Moore.
Mary Tyler
yeah,
Moore.
Mary
Yeah.
Tyler Moore. What an amazing performance! I was just
Oh
like,
my gosh.
when I saw that, you know, when you're used to seeing her as,
Yeah.
you know, Laura Petrie in
Yeah.
Dick Van Dyke Show, and then Mary, and then you get
Lou
this like
Grant. Yep.
shrew of a woman, and absolutely, absolutely. I hope Sky's okay. I think she had to take off, but I'm like really glad.
She probably has the same internet I do. Comms suck.
Yeah.
It took me forever to get on, but after I got on, I'm good.
Okay, I'm just writing her real quick. I'm just saying she said her Wi-Fi cut out and it's not acting right.
You didn't talk about pop references, did you? Yet,
No,
Rose?
we didn't. So let's do that. Why don't we go around the room and talk about pop culture references? Why don't you start, Brady?
Well, there's a couple Star Trek ones in there. First of all, with some of the characters, I believe you have a Kira in this book, or someone with the last name Reese. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, it's been a good 9 months since I've read this
You know
book.
what? I probably do, and I totally don't remember that, but I'm sure that there's a lot of Star Trek references in it because I'm just
There
like
is.
a Star Trek nerd.
But Night Terrors is for sure when they're talking about REMs and
Oh,
sleep
yes.
patterns.
Yeah.
Night Terrors from TNG4, which is regarded as a bad episode. I kind of like it. It's scary. They do
You know
a
what?
good
It's one
job
of my
talking
favorite
about.
episodes, Brady. It's one of my favorite episodes. I think it's really underrated. And
It is.
you know, they talk about how everybody was tired and they just came back on set. It worked. It worked for the story.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But yeah, absolutely. Any other pop culture references that you all picked up while you were reading it? I can tell you some. There's a few. I got another trivia question that actually goes to that. Okay, at GIHT, Dr. Ghali's place, the light and music therapy room is numbered 23B, and the room 23 was also the brainwashing room in which ABC television series from the mid 2000s that I was a total fan of and couldn't until the last season. Can anybody take a guess? It was Lost.
Oh, I never watched it.
So room 23B is an homage to room 23 from Lost.
Cool.
And here I got another one for you. Slater Road, okay? You know, that's the big road that's listed, mentioned in the book tons of times. It was named after a character from a 1990s NBC Saturday teen show that recently had a reboot. And anybody guess what show that was? Nope.
A teen show?
Yeah, teenage show. Yeah, it was on NBC on mornings, and it had a bunch of different cast of characters. One was Screech, Saved by the Bell.
Oh,
It's AJ Slater Road. that's the road. So when you're writing, you have to find names from places, and I would just pick like the most random stuff that I liked, and all that. Also, there's a scene in the book where Aiden is trying to help out Mitchie, and he offers a bribe to this girl, this woman who works at GIHT, and she has this daughter named Holly who's a dancer. Well, it's not the dancer part that's the homage, but he talks about wanting to, you know, would you like oak frames for the pictures of her ballerinas dancing? And that is an homage to Pulp Fiction, Quentin Tarantino. There's a scene near the end where the wolf comes in and he's trying to get and Jimmy, who's played by Quentin Tarantino, he doesn't want to give up, like he wants to borrow all this bedding to cover up blood. And he's like, this is special. These sheets were a gift. And he's like, how would you like a whole new bedroom suite? He's like, do you like oak? And Jimmy's like, oh, oak is nice. So the oak frames is my homage to Pulp Fiction. So
Okay.
that's just a few of the little bits of pulp culture references in the book. So you know what? It's almost, well, it is 9:30. So we're gonna wrap up a couple of things here. I just want to know if you've listened to the audiobook so far. Who's listened to it? Anybody?
I've listened to the first couple chapters.
And you liked it so far, right?
Yeah. So what her range makes her like real accessible to a lot of different characters. Like she could easily fluctuate multiple characters with her the way she talks. My first reaction is, okay, she sounds like Mitchie, how I envision Mitchie to sound. But in reality, she could go a lot of different directions. I think she's a good pick. So far, so great. You know, I actually downloaded the Kindle accidentally, thinking it was the audiobook. I have not the paper version, but I have Kindle, and I have all three. And I'm okay with that, because now if I want to read it on my phone, I can read it on my phone too. So yeah, she's done a great job. This is actually my first audiobook on like internet audio. I have old cassette tape audiobooks, but yeah, I'm kind of excited. This is so. She sounds great.
Oh, thank you so much, Deb. You've heard some of it. Do you like it so far?
Yes, I sure do. I mentioned that to you at lunch a couple of weeks ago. I love it. You know, I think her voice is great. You want to? You know what my first comment was? Do you remember about her name?
Oh yeah, you thought it was Michi, and you know what? I never corrected you because I wanted you to experience the book the way you experienced it. But yeah, it's Michi. That's how I see it.
I always thought it was Michi, and all of a sudden I turned on the audiobook and she's saying Michi, and I said, "Wait a minute." It's funny how you create your own character in your head.
Yep. Do you all mind keep going, or do you all need to leave?
I need to go. I got to get my little one to bed.
Okay. Yes, Cara. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. You have a great night.
See you.
Bye.
Okay. Anybody else? Because if not, I'd like to go through a couple more things.
Okay.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. I wanted to know: do any of you have questions for me about the book? Anything that's on your mind about anything?
Okay. How much medical researching did you do about the pills and all that kind of stuff? The medical.
I did a ton of research. And not only about that, but about a bunch of stuff that happens in the book. And Deb was she was a nurse a long time ago. I don't know if she was a nurse, but she worked in a psychiatric hospital. So I would ask her about certain aspects, especially in the early pages with Dr. Golly. And she told me, she's like, well, restraints really aren't used anymore. And I said, I know, but I got to use that for effect. And so that's how that came about. Any other questions? What you guys like to see in the sequel? What?
Why did you choose Portland?
I wanted someplace as far away from Florida as possible that was accessible, and I loved. I researched everything I could about Portland, and so one of my friends by the name of Ed Watson, he went to he read my book and he traveled to Portland often, and he said I really got the feel for it. I want to go sometime and just see. I want to go to the gardens. When I found out about those gardens. You've been to Portland?
No, one of my good friends lives there.
Oh, okay.
I want to go to the leprechaun colony.
I don't know about that.
They have that's the only leprechaun colony in the United States is in Portland.
Wow, I had no idea. But the Japanese gardens, and I tried to, I fell in love with them, and so I ended up using that as a big part of the book. And there was just, it was so wild. My son watches a show called Court Cam, and he was watching it just last night. And Multnomah County came up, and I'm like, oh my God, that's a county that I used in my book. So, it was just like, and so I was just like so excited. And but yeah, Ed said that I really captured that a lot for that. So it's just the three of us now. we keep getting smaller and smaller. But Brady, any questions for me?
No, I'm excited for the sequel. There are some things I would like to see in the sequel. No, I,
Well,
I'm
that's
more
a question. That's a
excited
question.
because there's a lot
What
of
would you like to
different
see in the sequel?
Well, here, like I'm going back to just basic writing. Like we both love Michael Jan Friedman, and like what he always says, you got to have a beginning, a middle, and the end. And I'm not sure how many of these books you plan on writing, but if this is the second one in the trilogy, I think it's important to remember, and I'm sure you do, is that I'm hoping to see more of Mitchie as a little more experienced, maybe a badass, because now she's been the victim. Now
Yeah.
she can use what's happened to her as a strength and use her experience with Tina, her experience with the psychologist that she ends up seeing at the end. I forgot her name. Sorry. She's got a lot under her belt. So the second act, the problem gets bigger, but your hero is better prepared.
Yes.
So
Well,
she's going to be. Yeah.
That is absolutely.
So I'm hoping, Mitchie is a little more of the hero, less the victim, more involved and able to fend for herself. I'm guessing she'll be a little older and, a little more badass now. She's been through all this stuff and she's learned a lot. And also something else, and maybe you're doing this, but, what I think would be smart. And I'm not trying to tell you how to write your book, but what I think would be cool is if you have flashbacks again of stuff that happened in the first book. So you're revealing more, like with Tina, or some via flashback, something else that happened maybe when she was in the mental institute, or maybe something else that happened from her childhood. Something else in the past is introduced from in the second book that we didn't get from the first book. And it could be more with Tina. It could be another person she met when she was in the ward. It could be some subplot where we get another piece, a nugget of who Mitchie is from her past. Would be cool.
Well, thank you so much. That's awesome. Those are great ideas, Brady. What about you, Mandy? Any ideas for the sequel?
I put Mitchie becomes a detective.
Ooh.
Oh, really?
Oh no.
There you go.
I thought that she could look at the way that the detectives fought for her and were helping her, and so she was inspired by that. So she wants to take her bad experience and make it good by investigating, and you could get a whole nother mystery going on out there.
That's really interesting. We'll see what happens for sure. That's a really interesting idea, though. Deb, any ideas for the sequel that you'd like to see?
I beg your pardon?
Any ideas for the sequel? What would you like to see in the sequel?
I guess, I pretty much have to agree with the others in that I like to see her with a little bit more maturity and a little bit more oomph, a little bit more tenacity behind her, because she's grown because of everything that's happened to her. Not really a complete correlation, but kind of like the Harry Potter books. He grew up.
Right.
He and kind of the character developed, and he grew up and he matured. I'd like to see the same thing happen with Mitchie. And I Mitchie, sorry.
It's okay. Deborah. No, it's how you see her. So that's fine.
Well, something I think is very interesting about the first book is she's in the book a lot. She is the hero, but she's also comatose a lot. And you learn more about Mitchie from her supporting cast than you do from her.
Exactly.
That's why it reminded me so much of the show The Prisoner, because The Prisoner, he's tight-lipped about his personal life. He's very private, but everyone else knows everything about him. You learn about the character through other people more than you do from the character.
Yeah, and I think I think that's an absolutely awesome idea about maybe bringing in somebody else from the mental hospital that she ran into. I think that is a great idea, whether in a big way or just a small way.
Flashback,
I think that would be great.
Yeah, those are all great ideas. And thank you so much. I appreciate everybody on being on tonight. And I just want to kind of wrap up a couple of things. I I appreciate everybody coming on. It meant the world to me that everybody was able to show up, even if they couldn't stay for that long. You know, it's gone almost 2 hours, and I think that's pretty awesome. I have plans for the book, for the audiobook. When I went on Audible, you have an option to be exclusive to Audible or not. And even though you take a pay hit, as far as getting your, your residuals, I decided to go ahead and go non-exclusive. So I am planning to bring the book up through different venues. As soon as I know what they are, I'll let you know. I'm working on it. I wanted to have it done, but with everything happening on it in my life right now, I got something to show you guys. Hold on. It was here and now it's not here. But, oh, here it is. Okay. So I had a couple of crazy ideas. And one of them is this here, because I go to these book shows and I really don't want to say, oh, you can scan this and buy it at Audible, because they're going to be like, oh yeah, that's great, and then they're never going to buy it. Okay, because I've run into that. Everybody tell me they're going to buy their Kindle version and then they forget about it as soon as they leave. I had these made, and you can't really see it. You can't really see it on here, but it's the cover of the new cover of the book. This is a jump drive. I'm going to put the book on here. And then I'm going to sell these at conventions. And if it goes well, I'm going to sell them. I'm going to sell them to people, anybody who wants one.
Good idea.
So they're expensive. These custom thingies are expensive to have made. But if they sell, I will continue to sell them. And so I haven't uploaded the book onto them yet. I bought 10 of them. And we'll see how it goes. But that's one of my ideas that I had. Because a lot of people don't want to be tied to an Audible, account, and a lot of people don't have access to Audible. So I wanted to make it more available, because that's more my goal than making money. I'd rather take the hit and make it a wider release. So that's my plan. And I wanted to show you guys. This is a couple people have seen this, but not publicly. This is my hardcover that's going to be coming out soon.
Oh, cool.
I had to have it reformatted because the interior, I made mistakes. When I forgot, it's been a long time, and when I sent it out, it came up messed up. But people have been asking for a hardback version. Amazon now offers it. So this will be coming out hopefully mid-September. It takes longer to get the proof spec for the hardback. I'm expecting mine September 5th, the new one. And if it looks right, which I think it will, because the new paperback looks right now. It was the same error on my part. It was just a formatting error. This is going to be the new print version, which is, it's already been released on Amazon, but they don't have it with I have to unpublish the old one, but I don't want to lose my reviews. And I'm trying to find out from Amazon how I can uninstall the old copies and just have the new ones up and have them all together. So I'm waiting to hear back. I didn't like their answer the other day, so I re-asked the question. Yeah. So, because I'm going to be really sad, because those 22 reviews from 2018, they're hard to get. And some of those people, my friends, are not alive anymore. So, I don't want to lose their review.
I wrote a review.
I loved your review.
I wrote a review.
And I loved your review. You did it on Goodreads too, Brady. I know.
Well, so, always copy and paste.
Did you review it? Did you review it on? I think you did review it too, didn't you, Deb?
Yeah.
On Amazon. Mm-hmm. What's your title name? Are you Companion?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so. Okay, so you're Companion. Yeah. So yeah, I love everybody's reviews except for the one who gave me 2 stars. So
there's always going to be those
the
people.
book wasn't finished, and I'm like, what book were you reading? Apparently,
exactly.
you weren't reading the right book. But the cool thing is the book, has been read internationally, and it's internationally available in some places.
Cool.
And I just wanted to share something real quick here. I have the photo. This is my friend Marcela Ibanez. She lives in Argentina, and she paid $40 to have that book shipped when it first came released, and I was just like mega surprised that she paid that much money, and also very touching that she paid that much for the book. Living in Argentina, had to have it shipped all the way there. I have a friend in Ireland who read it, and a friend in the UK. And it's also somebody from Australia read it and left a 4-star review. And I was like, wow, that's great, because I don't know who this person is. So when I get reviews from people I don't know, that are favorable, it always like, yay, because, if it's your friend, it's just like, that's awesome that they love the book. But do they really love the book, or do they just love me? But I think you guys really love the book, and that's what makes my heart full.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. I am going to be at Southwest Florida SteamCon September 24th. I'll have old copies of the book, and I'm going to have these. And that's going to be at the German American Club, Deb. So,
Okay.
you could just come out and say hi to me. It's $10 to get in. It's my friend Michelle. She does this SteamCon every year. This year, it used to be at Crown Plaza. This time we're doing it at the German American Club out on Pine Island Road. And then on January 15th, 2023, I haven't paid for it yet, but I'm going to be there, come rain or shine. My favorite show down here, the Southwest Florida UFO and Paranormal Con, January 15th from 10 to 6. And that is going to be, I think that's going to be at a comedy club. I'll have more details later because she's just getting started, but I think it's going to be at the Laugh-In Comedy Cafe. And I'll be, God willing, I'll be there too. So any final thoughts about anything, Amanda?
Oh no, I was just going to say, and this, I didn't notice it the first time, but I noticed it the second time. Who was it? Ross's stepmother's named Faye, and it's spelled 3 different ways on 3 different pages.
I wish I knew that before I printed my book out.
Well, I just found it out like this week, and I was like, because my middle name's Faye.
Oh, I didn't know that.
On page 292, it's F-E-Y, then it's F-A-Y, and then it's F-A-Y-E.
Oh,
but I didn't notice it the first time. And if you didn't have my name, you probably wouldn't care. But anyway.
And, it's really weird they bring up Faye, because I actually, if things work out, she's that whole thing with Ross Thomas. What I hope, everything that happened in book 1, there's not everything, but a lot of little things I'm going to bring back up in book 2. And Faye and Ross Thomas's death, it's not going to be like a throwaway, forgotten thing. Okay. I have plans. Final thoughts, Deb?
Nope.
No final thoughts?
Can't think of anything we haven't gone over. But I'm sure by the time we have lunch again, I will have thought of something.
Okay, great. And Brady, final thoughts?
I was intimidated by this book's size, and I will tell you.
Question?
I will tell you right now, I was through this book like fast. Like, okay, this is how I judge things. How I judge TV shows. I judge it on my childhood. I still am so passionate about Star Trek as a kid. I'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to catch the episode of TNG I recorded the night before and have my coffee and cereal. Well, I got up early a couple times to read this book because I knew it was a longer read, and I was excited to find out what was going to happen next. It was for as long as it was a page turner, and I don't say that about a lot of books. And
no, you're right. I agree.
You gave us little chunks of cheese or breadcrumbs and made us want more. And it was a very fun reading experience. I would highly recommend it to anyone out there. I got the links all over my Facebook page at Brad I. Jern and Facebook, and yeah, it's on Amazon. So I recommend it to anyone. Don't let the size fool you. Well, some people like long books, but I always read 2 books at a time. Usually one Star Trek book, and then it's something else from spec fiction realm. And
I like long books if they're good, and this was.
Yeah, so that's what I got to say. It was a great read, and I look forward to the next one, Rose.
No, thank you so much. I'm gonna do you have something else you'd like to say, Amanda?
No. I'm just happy. I'm ready for the movie to come out.
Oh,
Yeah, I
me
can
too.
see it.
I would love it. I've talked to my daughter about how I'd like to see maybe like a animation, like a animation style, maybe, or
Yeah.
I'd like to see, the the thing you can do with that kind of stuff is you can make it longer and more interesting, like a graphic novel or like a novel for television. I think that doing a movie, you'd have to break it up, and
Yeah,
it
that's
might do it
true.
a disservice.
On
I think
Netflix.
about I think about the Hunger Games, and especially Catching Fire. And did you all read the Hunger Games books?
No,
No.
but I've seen the movies.
Yeah, well, the Catching Fire is the middle book, and it was the book I read it in one day, and
Wow.
I thought that when they did the movies, they split Mockingjay into two parts, and they shouldn't have. It should have been Catching Fire. That should have been two parts, because there was so much more to that book than to Mockingjay, and I hated Mockingjay anyway. So just despised that book. But the way it ended, especially. I just if I ever did it, if the big if anybody ever came to me about wanting to turn it into something, it would have to be a short series or a mini series. I wouldn't
Netflix.
cut it down. I wouldn't cut it down to 2 hours, because there's so much you'd lose so much,
I agree.
But
The characters
I
deserve more.
thank you so much. And I appreciate every one of you being here. I'm going to show the trailer, and then we're going to say goodnight. I'm going to run my long trailer here. And then I want to let you guys tell me what you think of it. Here we go.
Sometimes I dream about a man. At least I think they're dreams. I can never remember his face, but he has bushy hair. You think he has something to do with your alien abduction theory?
I understand there are no such things as aliens. You understand nothing.
Stop this! Damn it! Wake up, Mitchie! I'm not me anymore.
Origami. 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 Fight it. Fight it. Very simple. Are you playing at Wimbledon this year?
Warped Influences. Written by R.M. Rose. Narrated by Sky Alley.
So what do you think of that trailer?
I'd read it, but I've already read it twice. But
Thoughts on the trailer?
I love that you did the nail polish. I mean, because that is a big thing. And until I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's huge. I mean, really and truly, that is huge throughout the thing. But you don't know it.
I tell you what, I go to a grocery store every day. Right next door is one of those nail salons. I think of the book every time. I will never step in another one of those. There are absolute of going down the woods.
Oh, I lost you, Brady. So thank you.
It
You
is
got
very.
down
This book had a lot of scary crap in it, so
Yeah, it did.
it was scary. That was not what I expected.
Deb, thoughts on the trailer, book trailer? Oh, hold on, you're muted. Thoughts on the trailer?
I thought it was excellent. I wouldn't change a thing. I totally agree that the nail polish thing was huge. That was great.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I think most women or men probably too have been in a salon like that, and that really, yeah, I love that. That's great.
Thank you so much. I'm a huge editing person. I used to edit. I used to love editing music videos with 2 VCRs when I was a kid growing up. So I'm like learning this editing system, and I'm learning how to strip audio. And it took me 7 hours to do that trailer.
Oh,
and
my goodness,
then I like
art.
redid it. I redid it for the opening tonight. I hope you guys like the opening, because I had a lot
Great
of fun
job.
making that too.
Very professionally done.
Thank you so much. It's my little side passion is editing. So thank you very much. I love that you all were here. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody. Lorraine, thank you for being on. I don't think you're still with us, but thank you for coming in and sharing. And I just want to say, because Sky had to cut out, if you have a book that you need narrated, or you need a voice actor, because she does little snippets, she does everything. She can be found on Fiverr, and she's just incredible. She became a really good friend of mine, and that that doesn't usually happen with her with clients, and but we kind of hit it off, and it was just a very special thing. So I think she's going to go far with her career, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens. Oh, thank you so much, Lorraine. I appreciate it. I really do appreciate that. I thank everybody for being here and coming on. And I know I've said that a couple of times, but I truly mean it. So, as far as I just want to make a push. I want to make a quick push for our shows. Just a reminder that Classic Television SmackDown will be back in 2 weeks after Labor Day. We're on hiatus, and Saturday Morning Cartoons, which is on every Saturday morning. You can find us on Facebook, MBL Entertainment. We're on break for 2 weeks as well as my daughter and my show, Roses and Reactions. We're all decided to take a 2-week hiatus. So we'll be back in September, mid-September. So, keep watching, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So have a great night.
Thank you for having us on.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye now.
Bye. Love
Bye.
you, girl.
Thank you so much. Bye now.
Sometimes I dream about a man. At least I think they're dreams. I can never remember his face, but he has bushy hair. You think he has something to do with your alien abduction theory?
I understand there are no such things as aliens. You understand nothing.
Stop this! Damn it! Wake up, Mitchie! I'm not me anymore.
Origami. 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 Fight it. Fight it. Very simple. Are you playing at Wimbledon this year?
Warped Influences. Written by R.M. Rose. Narrated by Sky Alley.
Good night.